Hi, this is Jamie Spoonmore for the class AUP 858 Data Protocol, Module 17. As I began thinking about what I wanted my data protocol graphic to look like and the pieces of it, I kind of thought back to our MTSS system and then our general education intervention teams and how we kind of do things at school. Um, I don't believe that we actually have a process set in place. So I kind of went off of that and then tweaked it a little bit. So the first thing that I believe is important to do is just to collect data first, because then based on that, we can then identify our needs and the kids' needs and then set goals on how we want to improve. Um, for our school, we do our math and reading screeners at the beginning of the year to identify who needs extra support in those subjects. We also, throughout the year, as a team of teachers, identify the kids that are struggling with either being in class, staying on task, disruptive behavior, etc. And so once we have collected data and set the goals, then I think it's important to go ahead and share that with stakeholders. So whatever teachers are involved with the student, and then of course the parents need to know what's going on at school. And so then after we have shared with the stakeholders, I think then the next step would be to implement some different interventions to see if it's a kid that's on a GEI, like what kind of accommodations can we do for them in the classroom to make sure that they are successful. On the other side, it's our MTSS putting them in the correct tier that they need, whether that's 50 minutes of math or reading or 25 extra minutes of math or reading. And then I think the next important step would be to collect some more data, because this data would tell us whether our interventions or our accommodations are working for our students. And that would be in the analyzing piece here to see if those interventions are working. Do we need to change them? Is the student progressing like we need them to be? And then, of course, once again, we need to share what's going on with the stakeholders. So depending on like whether it's like a SPED teacher that needs to know how their kid's doing, or just parents, of course, always need to know what's going on, share with them. And then after we've done that, depending on where we're at in the year, I think it's important to go back and set goals and identify needs, and then just go through the whole system again. So to help teachers get started with this protocol for collecting data, we would use our math and reading screeners on FastBridge, and then Sabres for their social, academic, and emotional behaviors. And then for our GEI kiddos that need just some intervention, their UBC card, their Universal Behavior Card, we collect data on that, just 0, 1, or 2, to see how the kids are doing in class. And the next step is setting goals and identifying needs. So I think it's important to determine whether the data is actually valid. Figure out where the gaps are, what are we already doing to help fill those gaps, determine what and how many of each tier that we need. And for the GEI, like specifically, what are we trying to get the student to do? What are we tracking? And then share with the stakeholders, share the goals with the necessary teachers, and inform parents of the results. So do they need math intervention? Do they need reading intervention? Explain why we started a GEI on their student, etc. And then, of course, with interventions, we would place them in the appropriate tiers. We do have mentoring to help with social and emotional needs. Counselors can also check in, or social workers can check in for those kind of needs. We've got our special ed teachers and paras, and then, of course, the classroom accommodations for the students. And then we're back at collecting this data. And then now we are analyzing it to determine if our interventions are working, if we need to figure out other interventions to use. Do we need to change the goals for math or reading, or just what we are trying to get the student to do in class? And then, of course, again, share the results with teachers and share progress with parents. So that is my data protocol.